Hi guys, welcome back to Planet Mithril. My name is Mithril, and I'm finally getting back to some Star Wars Shatterpoint models with my take on Hera Syndulla. One of the main characters in Star Wars Rebels and a figurehead in the fight against the Empire, Hera Syndulla is truly a heroic character who I'm super excited to get painted for the table today. Thank you so much for my friend Oz at Rampage Games for hooking me up with some quick and speedy Star Wars Shatterpoint goodness to satiate my Star Wars fix. I've been itching for some Star Wars Ghost Crew models to paint, and Star Wars Shatterpoint definitely did not disappoint. Now the crucial and most taxing thing with Hera will be balancing the vibrant tones of her green skin alongside those super bright vibrant orange trousers. I'll be using as many earthy, more grounded tones where I can to try and ground Hera a bit more whilst painting. This way hopefully it'll avoid her becoming a beacon of luminous green and orange. I'll be working my Hera off a grey undercoat which I've applied using Mechanica Standard Grey prior to painting. Brush is ready guys, let's get painting. I'm starting by base coating all of Hera's Twi'lek Skin with a 1-to-1 mix of Ardennes green and sherbet green. This will give me a really solid base for the green of her skin going forward. Her armoured chest piece, goggles, headband, gloves and boots are now being given a base coat using African Shadow. The rest of her upper clothes, top and headpiece, housing her leku, are being base coated with a few thin down coats of Thra brown. The final base coat stage is giving her trousers a solid coat of Kalahari orange. Orange and green, only Hera Syndulla can pull off this look. Given the low strength of the orange pigment, you might need a few coats to get a smooth, clean finish. Now I'm going to be building up the look and tone of Hera's characteristic green Twi'lek skin. It's important not to overbalance this, as this has to stand up against the vibrancy of those orange parachute trousers and balance alongside it. So to that end, I'll be using more earthy greens and yellows to bring up the tone and upper levels of Hera's skin. To begin with, I'm applying a manual shade to all of Hera's skin with a 2-to-1 mix of Ardennes green and Arbuckle's brown, focusing this in the recesses over her face, the reverse of her leku, and in any other shadowed areas. I'm starting to layer up Hera's skin now with a 3-to-1 mix of Sherwood green to Ardennes green, upping the quantity of the lighter green here slightly to start building in the structure of her soft facial details and the main body of her leku. I'm continuing to build this up to a layer of pure Sherwood green. By now you should see a powerful expression showing through. Again, as Hera's features overall are a lot softer than some we've worked with before, I'm feathering this in slightly to blend in the layers to more soften the transitions between. The highlight stages I'm tackling now by adding in tinnier yellow into the Sherwood green at a rough 3:1 ratio mix, keeping the yellows minimal to begin with to avoid oversaturating the green of the Sherwood, building up the blend over the top surface of the Leku and defining her facial features more, being slightly more targeted to make them pop. I've continued adding in small amounts of tinnier yellow into the mix and applying more highlights over her skin until my mix is a rough 3:1 ratio in favour of the tinnier yellow. By this stage I'm simply framing the sharper, more prominent parts of her face and the upper crest of the Leku to reflect the light. Her eye recesses now are being painted in using black. And the pupils finished off with 2 dots of white either side. All of the dark brown leathers now are being shaded with some diluted Arbuckle's brown, again running this into all the recesses and grooves of leather. I'm layering over all the panelling of the leather and the main surface areas with a 1:1 mix of African Shadow and Dubai Brown, leaving the Arbuckle shade showing in the recesses. Layering up again, this time using pure Dubai Brown. At this stage I'm focusing more towards the edges and more prominent areas of leather than the previous layer showed through underneath. I'm starting to build up the highlights over the leathers now by adding light skin into the Dubai Brown. You can see how I'm being a little bit more precise here and focusing more on my line work over the leathers. This, when combined with the final highlight, will make these areas really nice focal point alongside a lot of the other blended softer areas. I'll continue building up the highlights with small additions of light skin until I reach my final edge highlight, where I'm using pure light skin. This is being focused as more of a dot highlight on the upper crest, corners and edges of the leather. And normally I'd work from the inside of the model out, meaning I'd tackle the lighter undershirt before actually tackling the over armour and the leathers. I've reversed it this time around, mainly as I don't want to risk any of the brown I've just finished bleeding over and blemishing the lighter tones of the nice crisp undershirt she'll be wearing. I'm beginning by applying a shade to the beige colours of the shirt and headpiece with some diluted walnut, applied in a similar way as a brown shade was for the leathers. Now I'm applying a blocking layer to all the beiges with a 1-to-1 mix of Thra brown and birch, keeping it slightly thin to allow me to move the paint around the model a lot easier and avoid any potential streaking. This is being followed up by another layer using pure birch, again keeping it slightly thinner to allow for maximum control and the best possible smooth finish to these pastel tones. The final highlights are being applied by adding white into the birch until I've reached the final extreme edge highlight using pure white. At this stage I just want to frame the material and define all the creases over the material itself. Now it's time to tackle those audacious trousers, although I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably wear some myself, if I could find them. To begin with, the trousers are getting a shade with a 1-to-1 mix of Kalahari orange and red leather, working this into all the creases and recesses of the material. This is very well defined here, so this shouldn't be too taxing. Once my shade is dried thoroughly, I'm applying a blocking layer to the trousers, defining the main shapes and creases in the material with a 2-to-1 mix of Kalahari orange and Mars orange, leaving the shade showing in all the recesses to build in my initial shadow. The next step is to layer over the trousers again, now using pure Mars orange, further defining the shape and body of the trousers. The highlights now are being built up by adding in light skin into the Mars orange, starting at a rough 2-to-1 ratio mix in favour of the orange and gradually adding more light skin as my highlights progress. With each pass I'm being more targeted and further defining the flow of the material. Now I'm super happy with how Hera's trousers are looking. It's time to apply my final edge highlight using pure light skin, focusing again on the most prominent crests and edges of material where the light will be catching more. Any and all of the belts and straps over Hera now are carefully being picked out using black leather. These are being further defined now with a 3:1 ratio mix of black leather and white. And finally edge highlighted by upping the upper concentration of white in the mix to a rough 1:1 split. The metal areas of a holdout blaster and any buckles and metallic details over Hera now are being picked out using thrashed metal. These areas are now all getting a targeted highlight using speed metal. The casing of Hera's blaster is now being picked out with Kalahari orange. And edge highlighted using Mars orange again. Finally, the lenses of her goggles are being picked out using Caspian blue. A reflective highlight is finally applied using Adriatic blue. Oh boy, it feels great to be back painting some Shatterpoint models, and where better to start than some of my favourite characters from the Rebellion. Hera Syndulla stands ready to lead Phoenix Squadron to victory on the tabletop. Well, as soon as I finish the other Spectre models, of course. For tips and methods of basing, please check out my Shatterpoint basing tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and hit that bell for video notifications to make sure you never miss an upload. Our Patreon is still live. Thank you so much for everyone who supports us over on Patreon. You can support the channel there for as little as £1 a month and support my very unhealthy addiction to panda butch flesh. Otherwise, again, thank you to all our patrons so far, and until next time guys, take care, and as always, happy hobbying. Bye guys.